You are watching Omnis Protocol. I am Charles, also known as Omnis, and I am back with another list focus, this time featuring the Pacific Northwest legend, Donovan, aka Donovan Fett. What's going on, dude?
Not much. How about you?
Just been a day of editing and just getting ahead for the year. But I'm excited to dig into this list with you. I've got the Vader shirt on in honor of the project. So why don't you run the watchers through your list real quick. What list are we talking about today?
Okay. So the full list is Vader 1, so Vader Jedi Hunter. With Stormtrooper Sergeant and then Dark Troopers, and then you have the Inquisitor package with Grand Inquisitor, Third Sister, and Fifth Brother.
All right, very cool. In a lot of ways, kind of a classic, Empire list, but it's recently caught your attention. Not that recently, like you just started playing it, but like recently come back to being a favorite list of yours. What has got you fired up about this specific list? Is it certain synergies or like what's got you feeling it?
I think I've kind of wanted a break from playing just Riff all the time, so I've just gone back to what I would love to play. But also, I think there's a strategic part to it where I think this list can play well into like the boss aggro lists, which some people might not think, but I think it plays pretty well into it.
I mean, I have to give Vader 1 credit. I know 2024 was my year of kind of hating on Vader 1 a bit, but I've come around, and 2025 has definitely been a Vader Jedi Hunter year for me. So why these two primaries specifically? Because obviously you've got a couple of Vaders to choose from. GI could be Gideon. Why did you specifically choose Vader, Jedi Hunter, and Gideon to kind of lead this list?
I think I definitely picked Vader 1 for some pretty obvious reasons, I feel, because he allows the rest... Yeah. He gives the rest of your team just better potential to kill things, which I think is pretty important going into the matchup that I would want to play it into. And then I think Grand Inquisitor, I think I would definitely pick over Moff because he is allowing the list to supply the force that you need when you get the kills, which when you play into boss, one of the things about Boss Hunter that I've noticed is the force economy of Boss Hunter is not great once you start killing things. But with Vader 1 GI, with the Force Refresh, the 7 Force, you have the ability to outlast your opponent with the force on the force economy side, which can be pretty important for future turns.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. I mean, force refresh is good. No surprise there. Now, obviously, GI also offers a heal when you get wounds, which synergizes very well with Vader adding dice and dealing damage to yourself. Do you have any tips for like how you utilize it right? Because Vader will often heal himself, but the other ones kind of have to be in range. How do you position any particular way to utilize that particular identity?
I think the mission definitely impacts that because if it's sabotage, it's a lot easier to get those heals across. But if it's like a more spread out mission, I think I've not really run into the issue yet, so I've not really had to plan around that. But I think you're usually only recovering your Inquisitors because find the word because getting your Darks in range 2 of the Inquisitors is really important, right? And then on the wider spread mission, you're only really covering the Inquisitors, which means you're not going to be using the Vader dice on the Darks nearly as much, which is not too punishing, but that's still a thing.
Makes sense. Well, since you brought up Dark Troopers, let's talk a little bit about the supports that you chose for this particular list, right? So you brought in Dark Troopers and you brought in Fifth Brother, right? There's also interesting choices in both of these slots. Is it mostly Fifth Brother's a tanky boy and Dark Troopers, have coordinated fire strain to help Vader, or is it more complicated than that?
Not too much more complicated. I mean, I think taking ESTs over Fifth Brother and then putting Fifth Brother in Dark Trooper spot is definitely an option. but I've found having Fifth Brother and Vader 1 and Stormtrooper Sergeant in the same squad can sometimes get a bit tough because you only have 2 models up the board, like, consistently, because Stormtrooper Sergeant, of course, only has 1 movement on it that he can get. So just having 2 models up the board can definitely be restricting, which is why I kind of avoid that. I think lots of people probably take ISF over Darks here, but I kind of like taking Darks just because the Darks can allow GI, Fifth Brother, and Vader 1 to get the extra damage off the strain on their tree, which I think definitely matters a lot going into the more aggro lists because you want to push as much damage as possible.
That makes sense. And it's kind of nice having all of your supports being able to jump. Right? Yeah. Like, does that end up being a big advantage in this list, or does it not come up very much?
Oh yeah, no, 100%. Having access to the jumps allows you to, 1, get to the targets that you want to hit in melee, and 2, just better movement overall. Kind of like, Mandalorians with all those jumps, that makes them a threat on these like tables with less ladders or more elevation. Same thing here.
No, I can totally see that. So with Fifth Brother and the Dark Troopers, because you really want to keep them alive, how often do you feel like you are utilizing the Vader dice with them? Is it all the time? Is it very rarely? Like, what's the usage?
Dark Troopers, I never use it because they are now 7 health. Before they're 8, so sometimes you would use it, but now 7 health, you're never going to use it. Because then they're just less tanky than any clone ever was. Like, ever. Which is not good. And Fifth Brother, it really depends on the situation. I oftentimes don't need to use it because he's a tiebreaker, has a shove on 1, or Force Repulse if you really need it. You have the Force Economy to sustain using Force Repulse. So I never really need to use it, but I don't mind doing it if I have to.
That makes sense. How important is it to reserve Fifth Brother for key situations? Because he's your one guaranteed displacement in the list, right? Obviously, you've got a lot of wounding potential with this, so you can get people off points. But sometimes when you don't want to kill and you just want to get something off an objective, Repulse is the way. Do you hold him back at all, or is he still a character that you just kind of roll with whenever he comes up?
I think it really depends on the situation. If you're like if it's like the first pull of the game, I pull Fifth Brother, I tend to not, because if I happen to pull Vader 1 first, with like no targets up on the board, that's gonna really, really, really suck. Yep. But also, like, if it's like Struggle 2, and I pull Fifth Brother, and like, I have the option to reserve with Vader 1 and Sergeant in the deck, I might reserve him because later in the game, everything's farther up. So Sergeant will be closer. Vader 1 will be able to hit something, probably kill it because it's Vader 1. So, yeah.
All right. Very, very logical. All right. Well, let's shift over, talk about the secondaries for a moment. So you brought Stormtrooper Sergeant and Reva or Third Sister. Obviously, you have actually a fair amount of secondaries to choose from. Why did you lock in these 2 specifically?
Sergeant, I think I took Sergeant just for the fact that I could take a better support, because not the ISBs are bad, they're great for their cost, but I'd rather have Darks in this situation, and just the ability to advance the tiebreaker on the board is very great. When I've played Moff, I'm just repositioning Fifth Brother around the board. Feels great, right? And then Third Sister, I think there's a good argument for taking Hask in that slot, especially with the dice fixing. You have another way to reposition a tiebreaker, right? But I think Third Sister, now she is much, much tankier than she was before. It's not crazy, but it's it's a pretty tanky secondary. And then she also hits fairly hard with the Vader dice. Just the ability to get a 10 dice attack with expose or rerolls. It really usually take rerolls in my experience, but and then she can still move Fifth Brother around the table, which is very important.
Yeah, whenever she gets to just move Fifth Brother back onto a point, that is so backbreaking. And if people haven't tried Reva since the update, you got to give her a try. She's a lot of fun to play, and you get a lot more done with her than you would probably expect. So, let's talk about mission. Do you have a particular mission that you prefer with this, or is there any that you want to avoid? What are your thoughts?
I tend to lean towards sabotage because this list, it's not like it can kill things very, very efficiently with the primaries and Reva depending on what you're attacking. If you're attacking an 8 health support, it's going to be dead. But you also have supports who are very good at displacing things off points. Dark Troopers, even though they lost how much tankiness they still have crazy swing turns. Like, they did not lose how much swing they get. And then Fifth Brother, it's fairly obvious. Force Repulse tiebreaker. So I think just the ability to go up, take a point, and then, like, about almost every turn with Sabotage, except with Sergeant, that can get a bit difficult. But, like, every model, except for Sergeant, is taking a point. Like, almost no matter what.
Yeah. Well, one of the nice parts about this list is that you have the Force to spend on first contact, right? If you need to be able to flip the scenario layout, you've got the Force for that. And, you know, if you're a wounding focused list, that's going to also have the Force to spend for challenging the odds with Never Tell Me the Odds. And you certainly don't seem bad at shifting. So it doesn't feel like to me like you have an inherent weakness on any mission with this.
Yeah. There's not quite a mission that is like an absolute no for this list, but I think Never Tell, with how far spread apart the points are, this list does not really excel at moving things. It's like, it's not bad at moving things, but it's gonna do like a very average amount of movement, which is pretty, if you don't know, movement's very important on Sabotage. You know, Never Tell. Same with First Contact in the later struggles, because if your opponent is flipping the points, then you're going to need to be able to switch to another point quickly, or even just not even flipping. The points are pretty spread apart, depending on which card you pull.
Yeah, it does seem like it could be a struggle for Vader if you hit Never Tell, and then you end up with the main central point being the one that's as far from him as possible. That feels like it could be an awkward spot for him. So I can see why you wouldn't be taking Never Tell as your own list. So, all right. Well, is there anything that you like? Does this struggle into Double Revenge, or can it kill fast enough that there's just no one to move on to points? Or is there anything that you are trying to like dodge when you're playing this?
I think there's a build for this list that is not the build I have, but there is a build for this list that I think could contend with a Double Revenge that is not Kanan Cassian.
Well, let's focus on your build, because this is the list we're talking about right now, not hypothetical other people's. Not we're doing Donovan's build right now. So, do you think this one has like some issues with Double Revenge?
Yeah, I think Fifth Brother, Sergeant, and Darks, I think, is the issue there, because you have 3 models where they're not exactly going to kill everything. So if you try just the killing fast strategy, you only have 3 models that can actually kill things. And if you try to not kill fast, well, what are you going to do with Vader 1? Because, he gets 2 advances, he has 2 shoves on 4, but he's adding 2 damage. So, if you try to just shove things around, you're doing 8 damage. That's not great if you're trying to just not kill things.
Indeed. So is there anything in particular that you'd want to pair this with if you were doing this with a premier list? Are you building something to like specifically play into Double Revenge to go with this?
Yeah, I think if I was doing a full Empire premier list, I think I'm absolutely just bringing Moff with secondary of choice, and then I don't even know what I would bring with him, but I'm bringing Moff with something. It doesn't really matter what I'm bringing under Moff.
Gideon? We're talking about Moff Gideon.
Yes, Moff Gideon. Because Gideon, every time I play Gideon into Double Revenge, the force tax has mattered, and I know there's lots of arguments that it doesn't, and sometimes it doesn't. But there's just been so many times I'm playing into Cassian, which is where most
matters.
It
matters.
Most Double Revenges are gonna be Cassian. Canon PLC does not really see much play anymore. And then just that 2 force to reserve into Cassian is very, very, very powerful, because then they are spending 2 of their 5 force just to get a better card.
Yeah, like when the Cassian list goes first and they pull Baze and Chirrut first, and then they're like, I don't know if I want to spend 2 force to reserve them, and if they just get to walk onto a point and then you get to Vader them right away.
Yeah.
Like you can kind of trap them into awkward situations. So I definitely agree there. Obviously, you're not necessarily playing Gideon in this situation, but I mean Gideon Vader as a combination. But I like the concept of what you've got going on here. Do you have any kind of like just overall tips if somebody is watching this and they're like, yes, I want to play this Vader GI, lots of Inquisitors thing? What sort of advice would you pass on?
I'd say definitely don't always rely on your dice. Because if you always put the hands of the game in your dice, which that's every game, but don't just be rolling dice like a dice addict all the time. From experience, that you're not going to win any games if you do that.
I have definitely noticed with you that even when you're playing a list like this that's extremely offensive, I've still seen you like move, hunker, move.
Yeah.
During your activations, you're like, this is the time. And so if I were to read into that, your advice is like, you got to still recognize when you just want to make sure that you get to a point, because it's that important.
Yeah.
All right. Any other list tips, or does that kind of wrap it up?
I can't think of any now.
Okay. So overall, very cool list. Very offensive list. You get to play a lot of lightsabers in this one. That's got to be cool to see on the table at the very least, and showcase all of the beautiful models that your painter did for you.
Yes, my painter.
All right,
definitely not my dad.
I think we're going to wrap things up there. Donovan, thank you so much for coming on and doing the episode and showcasing one of your lists. I know the Empire lovers out there are going to appreciate this.
Oh yeah, for sure. At least I hope so.
Yeah.
Dylan.
And all of the
please.
hardcore Donovan fans.
I don't have any fans.
Oh, you definitely have fans. You're a big deal. Yeah. Hero of the Pacific Northwest. Champion for us anyway. Donovan, I appreciate you. Thank you for doing the episode with me. Listeners, you should absolutely try out this version of Vader 1 GI. Deliver the lightsabers, and we'll close things out there with later, nerds.
Bye.